with a difficult person. I'd like you all to think of times where you were in such a situation. How did the difficult person behave? And what was your reaction? Was it uncomfortable? Perhaps it didn't produce a successful outcome. Hopefully with this webinar, we'll give you some ideas and some tools to use the next time you find yourself in dealing with a difficult personality. Slide 4, please. So what are your options when you're faced with difficult people? You can choose to do nothing and just suffer, or you can walk away, or we can try to change our attitudes about the person. And even better, we can try to change our behavior by using some effective strategies that hopefully you'll learn from in this webinar. Slide 5, please. So let's start by changing our own attitudes and you know, really realize that we can all at times be difficult people. We should consider what is that other person trying to accomplish? What is causing them to behave the way they're behaving? When we understand them and the situation a little better, we are more able then to help them reach their goals and avoid conflicts and come up with a resolution to whatever you're trying to resolve. Slide 6. So I think everyone has strengths and weaknesses. This is a 4-square visual of categories that most of us fall into. It identifies behaviors that are task-focused or people-focused and passive or aggressive styles. Let's look at each of them a little closer and determine which is the best way to handle each behavior type. We will also see multiple personalities within each behavior type. Slide 7. So let's look at the controlling personality. These are the people that want to get it done. The sniper, the tank, the know-it-all. They're very aggressive and task-focused. These are the people on the top right of the quadrant. And they want to get the job done either by running over people or controlling the situation or putting people down. Slide 8. The tank. The tank is one type of personality that is very controlling. They're the ones that do want to run over everyone. Your goal with the tank would be to diffuse that, and doing that by demanding respect. And you want to make sure that things stay in control. Slide 9. So the action plan to deal with the tanks, stand up to them and respectfully disagree. You can say something to them, for example, that's an interesting opinion, Steve. I've not heard of that before. Please expand on that. You want to focus on facts and do not try to compete. However, if you are in the wrong, admit it and provide countermeasures to prevent a reoccurrence of that situation. Slide 10. Okay, now the know-it-all. The know-it-all is also very controlling and will likely not listen to your ideas. They probably don't think you have good ideas. Your goal is to open their minds to new ideas. You can say something to them like, you're really smart, Avis. I agree with you factually. How do we put this into practice? How do we put this into a practical application? Remember, don't let them control. Slide 11. I just picked on your wrist because I can see you. Okay, your plan with the know-it-all is to recognize that they are experts, recognize their expertise, but be prepared to share your knowledge by presenting your views. Don't question or doubt their accuracy. Listen and paraphrase. They don't know it all. They probably are very knowledgeable. And remember that a know-it-all can also be a great mentor. Slide 12. The sniper. This is also another controlling person. And the sniper, unfortunately, does it by putting people down. They can do it in front of you and they can do it behind your back. They want to be appreciated and they demand attention. The goal with the sniper would be to expose him or her, bring them out from hiding. Slide 13. Don't allow them to snipe. That's the plan. Do not allow them to snipe. And it is best to deal with them in a group environment. Be direct and polite. And make sure they have supported evidence and are dealing with the real problems. For example, you can say to them, I understand what you are saying. Where is your data and facts to support this? Then turn to the group and ask them, does the group understand what so-and-so is trying to say? Do we understand the ideas? That way it exposes them. Slide 14. Now let's look at the perfectionist. The perfectionist is also a task-focused individual, but unlike the controlling, he uses a more of a passive style. They're on the top left side of the quadrant. These are the naysayers, the complainers, and one of the turtle personalities that we will be learning about today. Slide 15. So the complainer does not want to be part of any solution. They prefer others to solve the problems and the issues. They can feel helpless. The goal with them is to make them part of the solution by forming an alliance, make agreements to collaborate. Slide 16. So the action plan for the complainer is to listen to them and without necessarily agreeing or apologizing, help them solve their problems by focusing on the actions they need to take. This could be a difficult person to deal with because they don't take responsibility, and when they don't take the responsibility, they likely will have no action. Focus on solutions by giving them actions and responsibilities. Slide 17. The naysayer. I call them the negative nerdy. This person is likely miserable and they drive others to desolation. Your goal with them is to focus on problem solving by acknowledging their good intent and using them as resources. These people are probably very knowledgeable and it's good to use them as a resource. Get them engaged. Say to them, you come up with some problems and you understand these problems better than anyone here. I am sure that we can come up with a solution. How do you suggest that we resolve this? Slide 18. This is one of the turtles. The turtle this particular one, it doesn't communicate. They communicate very minimally. And your goal is to get them to talk by asking open-ended questions. Don't allow them to just say yes or no. Let them know what is forthcoming so that they can be part of the future plans. Keep them involved. These individuals can be quiet at meetings, for example, and they need to be brought out. They likely have very important opinions to share with the group. So here is just persuade them to talk, get them involved, share their knowledge. Yeah. Slide 19. So the approval seeking, I want to get along with everyone. This is like someone who wants to be everyone's best friend. They are people oriented, and they use passive style. They're on the bottom left of the quadrant. They tend to take comments and reactions personally, and they are the stallers, the super agreeables, and the turtles. They just want to get along. Slide 20. The super agreeable usually overcommits because they want to please everyone. And unfortunately, at the end, they may end up pleasing no one. They do not like conflict and often don't deal with reality for the fear of hurting others. They seek approval, and your goal is to get them to make realistic commitments. Slide 21. So what do you do with the super agreeable? You need to be personal with them, but still you need to keep them on track. They will give you 1,000,001 reasons why they can't get things done. So you must stay on top of them. Watch out for delaying tactics and propose win-win situations. Unfortunately, it's almost like babysitting. Slide 22. The indecisive staller also just wants to get along with people, and they avoid making decisions, or they get in the way of the decision-making process. Your goal is to help them find resolutions, help them to make decisions. Am I going too fast? Hope not. Slide 23. So what is the action plan with the indecisive staller? Help them clarify their goals in order to make problem solving easier. Give them support, and give them support to make decisions, but make sure they follow through their commitments. You have to keep reassuring them. You have to continue, keep following through with them. Otherwise, you'll lose them. Slide 24. Okay, now let's look at the attention-getting people. These are people-oriented, but have a very aggressive style. They are at the bottom right of the quadrant. These are the snipers, the grenade, and the think they know it all. You will find there's a difference between the think they know it all and the know it all. So let's look at the think they know it all. The difference between the know it all and the think they know it all is that one does know it all, and the other one has concrete data and facts, and the other one doesn't know much about anything, right? They're distracting, and they will pull the team off track. They want to be appreciated, and they do demand attention. Your goal or action plan with them should be to diffuse their bad ideas and ask for specifics. These can be very difficult people and need special attention when dealing with them. Slide 26. Thank you. The grenade. This is a scary person. These individuals are very controlling, and they lose focus because they get easily upset, and they can become very, very intense. Your goal is to take control of the situation by keeping them in check and preventing the grenade to blow up, basically. And again, could be one of the most dangerous personalities, because if they do blow up, it can destroy the team or the session or whatever you're trying to accomplish. It's over. Once that grenade blows up, it's almost hard to go back. So reduce the intensity. '27. These are just some suggested reading that covers some of the things that we just went through. Okay, slide 28. So collaboration is the key goal of any team, right? And here are some tactics. How do you respond to dirty tricks? It's best to ignore them or call them on it. Offer to change to more productive methods. If they give you ultimatums, make sure they're reasonable. Address it. Or embrace it. Agree to ultimatums provisionally. Make sure that the team's goal is being met. '29. Here are some strategies for resolving impasses. When you come to a dead end, what do? Reduce the tension, improve communication, find a common ground, make your objectives more desirable, get people on board. Try to get people on board. Slide 30. This is just some language strategies to make communication a little bit easier. Instead of critiquing someone, comment. It's not a fight, it's a discussion. Instead of having an argument, make an argument. And don't look at the other side, it's another side. And instead of winning the argument, understand another point of view. Just a way to reframe things. And slide 31. And our last slide. Wow, that was a really fast hour. Sorry, everyone. I hope I didn't go too fast. This is probably a good place to ask questions to you all. Where do you see some of these personalities in that quadrant? Where do you see the bullies fall under?
Laura, I think what we're doing, Sue will get everybody unmuted here in a second. There's a little bit of a delay with that. So once we have everyone unmuted, I think anything is fair game. So I believe we're unmuted. So who wants to go first? We got plenty of discussion time, which is cool.
Well, this is Avis. Yeah, go ahead. This is Avis. In 57 years of working, I think I've run into every single one of them. And most of what you say does work. It's not easy though. It's not easy. It's something that you have to work at and that you have to stay with.
Thank you, Avis. Who wants to go next? If you're not speaking, the easiest way to keep everybody's sanity here is keep yourself muted. We've unmuted collectively, but if you will mute yourselves, and then one person can talk at a time, and we'll only have one background issue at a time. So who would like to go next?
Steve, this is Elizabeth. Laura, on slide 28, you say cultivate BATNA. What is BATNA?
BATNA stands for Best Alternative to a Negotiated Agreement. It's a way to collaborate. It's a key. It's like the goal for any team to facilitate, to make things, to come to an agreement. Does that answer your question?
Sure does.
This is Kenneth Presser from Long Beach. I do want to also make a statement. It piggybacks to what Avis was saying. I have run to basically everything you've said, but I think one of the things you need to be careful of is, you know, the way it's put here in this presentation, it sounds easy, but it can really burn you out if you're not careful with some of these different styles, especially those that may need attention. You may find yourself putting more time into trying to work with them and not give anything away from the rest of the team, because remember, you know, things still must move forward. The bullying piece, I run into that all the time. I just ignore them. I figure when you calm down, then you come back and talk to me more realistically, then that's not going to deal with you. You know, I think little things like that, but you know, it has taken over the years, it's taken almost 30 years to figure this out. It's not something that's going to be an overnight thing. It's something where you'll try some things here and there and see what works best for you. And then you just continue on through this presentation, and I think you'll be okay.
Thank you. Yes. Like it's people, right? You're dealing with people and different personalities, and it's always not necessarily a black and white, easy thing to deal with. Thank you.
Yeah, this is Avis again. I've found that it's a little bit different working in a working environment and working in a volunteer organization. In a volunteer organization, that's where I run into more of the temperamental, explosive people, because people working in a volunteer organization come to it because of their passion. And because they're passionate, they tend to be more volatile in their thinking, and they actually take longer effort and harder work and more follow-on to resolve the issues than I found in the working environment, where everybody's working for pay and hopefully working towards the same goals, which is keeping a job. But it's interesting the way they change.
That's a very good point, Avis. It is I think maybe a little bit more difficult when you are dealing with volunteer, because they're not getting paid, and you know, and a job needs to get done. And
yeah, it's much more personal than it is in the working environment.
Correct. Thank you for sharing that. Does anyone want to share a situation with the group where they had to deal with one of these types?
Yeah, this is Terry in Seattle. I supervise a group of people, and there is a bully in that group of people who wants to attack and make it one-on-one in front of all these people. And I have trouble not getting into that one-on-one conflict. Hello?
Yeah, sorry.
Gary, we can hear you. Keep going. This is interesting.
I know.
He hasn't finished it.
Ask her if they have a
No, I don't have a solution. That's what I was just wondering, if people had some ideas about how you take that person, turn it back to the group and not that person.
I think I'm not sure which slide it was, but basically, do it in a group situation. It's really easier to deal with bullies and people like that. These are the tanks, in other words, that just want to, you know, control things and run over people. It's easier to deal in a group, so it's not a personal thing. And when you have a collaboration of the group, I think it makes it a little easier than to do it on your own. Does that help?
Well, the bully, I mean, the other people won't join in. You know, he has everyone intimidated. He has everyone intimidated. He has just shut everybody up, and so now it's just him and I.
Well, then, I don't know. I think I would just say, you know, if there is a problem between you and I, you know, take it. Let's do it on the side. Just you know, let's resolve it ourselves. In other words.
I'd go to HR and get their help.
Or if it gets, you know, if it's gets to that point, yeah, absolutely, get human resources involved.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, this is Art Warren.
Yeah.
I've got a unique situation, and I'm in Seattle, by the way. I work for a guy that's a bully, and
same guy.
Is he there?
Yeah, he for instance, he's ordered me to do a task repeatedly, like 4 times. And the task, if I did it the way he's telling me that I have to do it, I'd be violating my professional engineering license. And the person that I'd be working with would be violating their electrical license. And so finally, after being ordered to do this several times, I went out with the electrician and performed the work properly by changing settings and things that I was told not to do. And then I got a letter in my file for convincing people to doing this thing wrong and all of that. I called HR about it, and HR just said, too bad. So what do you do with a situation like that?
I don't think I have the credentials to figure that one out. Does anyone else know? Have any ideas how do you deal with that?
Well, if it's in the rules that what he's asking is wrong, I would provide the rules and regulations to him.
Show the facts and data, I guess. That's where you...
Well, these types of things continue.
I've got an answer.
I'm sorry.
I think I've got an answer. My name is Skip Stillwell.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, my name is Skip Stillwell. I'm at Edwards, and I have found with people like that, you need to approach them with black and white where they're wrong, and so that they'll understand why the process is the way you say it is and not the way they think it should be. And as far as bullies, I've been bullied all my life, and I found out that if you just stand toe-to-toe with them and just don't back down, eventually they'll back down. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Very well said. Thank you. Anything else?
Well, somebody's got to have a good war story that they can share dealing with difficult people, because we've all had to do it. And part of the purpose of the webinar is to share some lessons learned and especially best practices for dealing with bullies. So we've got a little time. Who would like to share one?
Hello, this is Art Warren again. Concerning the same individual, I have been in meetings every week with this individual, and we review designs And some of these designs are done by engineers within our own company. And I have heard him in these meetings calling these people incompetent behind their back in front of everybody else. That's a painful thing for me to hear, because what does he do to others that might even be in our own group? But he's doing that fairly consistently. He's kind of a harassing type person like that.
Sounds like a sniper, right? And probably someone that needs to be exposed.
Well, if even if that person is incompetent, call them out or make these kind of statements in front of a whole group of people that are his peers. You know what I'm saying? That needs to be taken care of behind the scenes, not in public. So
That's true, and maybe their supervisor or their manager needs to get involved.
well, the problem is our managers don't manage. So when the managers don't manage, and all they do is complain when you're talking with them about some of these issues, or if they get involved in them, they just complain, but they don't manage the situation. What can I do? So anyway, that's my complaint. But same individual, he's kind of a bully, and that it goes on and on and on. It's gone on for as long as I've been here.
That's not fun.
So what's the most common between the people on here now? Which one of these personality types is the most common that is dealt with?
Like I said earlier, I think no one's really right on the left side or the right side or bottom part. There's a little bit of everything. I'm going to have to say that probably, unfortunately, maybe the controlling person is more common, or the perfectionist, people that just want to get things done, unfortunately, whichever way they can. Some people maybe just, a little bit of everything.
All of the above?
All of the above.
I work with somebody who could fit in any one of these squares depending on what day it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And one way doesn't work, you can't get it as a bully, then it goes to being controlling, and that's what I had to do to address it. I had to go to my manager. I said, this is not acceptable. He will not talk to me that way again.
Absolutely.
Stand up to them.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I had to do, and it was more than just once. And I also brought that up too. We're a team, and it needs to be unified. If you're going outside to shop, bad-mouthing someone on your team, you're tearing your team apart.
Exactly.
So
it's good.
And again, it goes back to, I had to force my manager's hand to stand up to it, though.
Yeah, some people need nudging to get involved, right, and fix the situations.
Yeah.
But yeah, command respect. No one is above anyone else, and I mean, if you command respect, it's likely that they'll back off and retrieve.
Yeah, if you're willing to stand up and say what's right, eventually someone has to listen.
Right.
But you need to take your life in your hands.
You need to communicate it, though.
Yeah.
You can't stay quiet.
No, you can't. You can't. It's not good psychologically. It's not good physically. It's not good for the team.
It's not productive.
Completely non-productive. Thank you. It's the word I was looking for.
Any other comments? Steve, you have a story?
No, but I was thinking during the last comment, all of us as leaders and managers have to learn lessons sometimes by taking a class or two in the College of Hard Knocks. And I was a little slow to realize that as a manager, I had to deal with difficult people. Most of us don't want to do it. You know, and I'm sitting here thinking the lady that said she went to her boss, and I'm sure her boss wasn't exactly thrilled, but I'm also sure her boss knew exactly what was going on and had probably made a conscious or unconscious decision not to deal with it. Then she went to him, so the boss, he or she, had to deal with it. But where I was headed with that was, all of us in leadership and management positions have to learn at some point that we are doing a real disservice to our good employees and the people who are really part of the team by allowing other things to go on. And at the end of the day, your responsibility to the good people on your team and the people whom you care about the most has to trump your fears of dealing with this difficult person, because this difficult person probably is not a charmer and you really don't want to do it. But, you know, it's getting your head on right and realizing, okay, even though I don't want to do this and I'd rather just take gas than do it, you owe it to the good people on the team. It gets back to, why do people leave organizations? They leave mostly because of people to whom they report, and not taking care of people that are causing everyone else heartache puts you as a leader and manager in jeopardy because you're not doing your job.
Very true.
All right, who else has a war story to share? These have been good. These have been good.
I'm so full.
All right, somebody is very full. Thank you for sharing that.
I've got one. Some years back, I was the documenter for a project, and the woman in charge of the project, well, one of the things that I had to do as a documenter was I would go out to the system and I'd test the code to be sure that what I was documenting, you know, really worked. And when it didn't work, I'd go back to the engineer and say, you know, this is what your code says. It does, but this is the result I got. Which is right? Is your code right and the documentation wrong, or vice versa? And the project manager used to chew me out, you know, just ream me up one side and down the other, because I was just a clerk and I had no right to tell her engineers what they were doing. And anybody who knows me knows that I don't take anything like that lying down. So I stood up to her time and time again. About a year and a half later, they transferred her and made her my project manager. So I was directly reporting to her, not reporting to somebody else. And first day that we met, I stood up and I said, okay, I said, maybe in the other situation, you treated me the way you did. You're not going to do it anymore. I said, you're going to have to listen to me. You're going to have to understand what I'm doing, why I'm doing it, how I'm doing it that way, and we need to come to a meeting of the minds. And she sat there for a minute and she said, you know, she said, I can't remember the last time anybody stood up to me. You know, maybe you're right. Maybe we need to talk things out more. And in the long run, she eventually turned out to be probably the second best manager I ever had. But it never occurred to anybody to stand up to her and say, hey, you know, this is not the way we do things. And so she taught me a lot about the ability to stand up for myself and be reasonable and logical. And if you're reasonable and logical, you've at least got a 50-50 chance someone's going to listen, going to pay attention to you. But she was so surprised that I actually stood up there and said what I did, because people just didn't talk back to her. And she was a bully.
Well, I think you did her a favor then, and maybe helped her become a better manager, a better person to work with, because you did stand up to them.
And over time, she actually got a couple of really good promotions that I seriously doubt she would have gotten if she had kept the attitude that she did. but it takes intestinal fortitude on both parts to, you know, to sit down and say, okay, you know, let's work this out.
Good.
But anybody who knows me knows that I don't take insults laying down.
You shouldn't.
Oh, you're right. You shouldn't. You shouldn't.
Anyone else? No?
No, you've had some very good thoughts today. It's nice to see in black and white things that you learned over a long period of working.
Yes.
Good information you can pass on.
Good. I'm glad. I hope it was somewhat helpful. I like someone said, it's not easy,
Mhm.
and it takes time and practice and maybe additional reading and training to deal with especially the more difficult personalities. But I hope this was a little helpful to everyone.
Okay. Well, my 3 chapters did not log on today, so I will be forwarding these handouts to them.
Thank you. That's great. Anything else, Steve?
I don't think so, Laura. I want to tell everybody Laura actually came in on a day off to do this, and we appreciate that. Your commitment is appreciated, and thank you for putting this together and doing the homework. And I know you've been there. I will close by letting you work in the executive suite there. You see a lot of things. How about your own situation with difficult people? Does that change depending on where you worked in the company?
I think my chapter is online, and I don't want to. Yes, I do work at the executive offices, and we have a lot of powerful people and different personalities. I was trying really hard to come up with an example, but I really couldn't without calling names. Just kidding. Candy, just kidding. But yeah, we're dealing with people in power, presidents and vice presidents, and even they can be difficult to deal with at times, and as well as coworkers. But I really don't have a war story. Sorry.
Well, I didn't want to get you in trouble. I realized the way I worded that could have. So, but you're right. We all do it, and I think it's a lot harder in the workplace. A lot of times people, and those who know me know that I will joke and say, well, yeah, I would answer that, but job security issues keep me from doing that. And it's 9 times out of 10, I'm kidding. But I do think for a lot of people, they get a little frightened, and dealing with difficult people is bad enough. And then if you're sitting there thinking that, well, what happens if this backfires? And so, it's tough. So maybe we'll leave, and maybe I'll throw that out there. Has anyone in our audience ever had a situation where dealing with difficult people has been a lot harder than it looked and kind of put you in a bad light? Anyone? Well, I'm glad no one's in a bad light. So, Laura, once again, thank you for doing this today. We appreciate it. And since it's Thursday, I know Laura joins me in wishing all of you a very nice weekend, and then a very safe and happy July 4th weekend very quickly thereafter. So thank you so much, and goodbye.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks for joining.